It's about 5 o'clock in the morning, 9 days after a full moon.
Yeah. Nice to meet you, Angel.
How are you?
Good.
Angel Yanagihara is out walking the beach, hunting one of Waikiki's most dangerous animals.
I'm out here actually to look to see if any jellies are beaching here.
It's not a shark, but a flimsy creature you can almost see through.
With the exception of these 3 mornings per lunar cycle, these animals are living offshore at depths, and they're not going to cross paths with us, with we swimmers and coastal people. But during this brief window, they are actually purposefully swimming up from the deep to the near coastal reef.
Angel is a biochemist at the University of Hawaii, and she says the box jellyfish carries the most dangerous poisons in the world.
When it's injected into the fish or the shrimp or unfortunate swimmer, causes massive destruction of all types of cells. So it's not cell selective. So when this gets into your bloodstream, it causes massive lysis of red blood cells, to the point that at a high enough dose, enough of sting tentacle contact, one's plasma potassium can get to the level where the heart stops.
So how does a biochemist end up studying a lethal sea creature? As Angel puts it, it all started by ignoring good advice. From Currently Ocean News, this is Wavelengths. I'm your host, Betsy Brown.
Well, where we're standing here at Kaimana Beach was actually what started my whole interest in these animals. I'm an ocean swimmer, and just before dawn in July of 1997, I was approaching the beach area to do my swim, and an old woman pointed out clear little blobs on the shore and said, "Don't go today. These are box jellyfish and they're dangerous."
Angel went anyway.
So on my way back into shore, having swum almost an hour, I faced the outgoing current right at the coral break, and I wasn't really thinking of anything in particular. I was kind of tired, and all of a sudden I felt needle-like jabs in my neck, and I thought maybe I'd run into some fishing hooks. So I tried to sweep that away with my hand, and unfortunately it felt kind of sticky. Suddenly, because I had so much of it wrapped around my neck, I was trying to get that off. I felt like I wasn't able to get enough air, and that my lungs were starting to fill with fluid. It was really strange. So I went on my back and kind of arched my back, and I was still offshore. I wasn't in any place where I could stand up, and that wasn't helping either. And there was no one on the beach, no lifeguard, and I remembered from my lifeguard training that a lot of deaths are silent. Drownings are silent. You don't even have the energy to scream in the end.
She kept swimming, but the pain was excruciating.
So I actually went into my natural childbirth training. It was that much pain. So I was doing Lamaze breathing and counting the strokes, but the outgoing tide was pushing me out. I wasn't making progress. So I just kind of stopped looking at the beach and just tried to keep doing my breaststroke, and bit by bit.
Eventually, Angel made it to shore and walked up to a shower.
And then when that water started splashing me, I felt 1,000 more prickly feelings and more burning pain, and it was just gone from bad to worse. So I had a quarter in my Speedo, and I walked towards the payphone near to the aquarium, and I felt like I couldn't even make the next step. By the time I got there, I couldn't even speak at all. But the next thing I knew, I had passed out and I was in an ambulance.
The paramedics were treating her with vinegar, but it wasn't working. So they tried a shower again, this time with hot water at the aquarium.
I actually did start to feel some relief of the pain. So at that point, I was just really embarrassed about all this drama. And I said, well, thank you, I'm going to drive home, blah, blah, blah. And they said, well, no, this is a very serious sting. So I signed out against medical advice. I got in my car, I start to drive into Manoa, and halfway towards home, it came on again, and it was worse than it had been even on the beach. And I started wheezing, and as I'm making my way traffic light to traffic light, I'm starting to think, am I even going to be able to make it home? But I finally did, and I called my husband, and he came home. And
Angel's husband, a physician, treated her with topical steroids and anti-inflammatories, but it didn't help.
I just suffered at home 3 days, and it was just agony, night and day agony. I was outraged that there was no proper answer when I did some literature search as a biochemist. What's in the venom? How does it work? How can it be properly treated? Because this vinegar and saran wrap and meat tenderizer situation that they had used just seemed to me to be ridiculous cookbook approach. It isn't based on any validated scientific inquiry. So that's what got my goat, and I thought, well, let me write a proper grant proposal to do this. Not that anyone would ever fund it, but just because I'm upset.
The proposal was approved, and Angels spent her career studying the very thing that nearly killed her. One of the first questions she answered was why the box jellyfish comes ashore each month.
When I first started this work, I noticed that the animals had a milky appearance, and looked at some of these under the microscope and found that they had either eggs or sperm within their body cavity. So it seemed that perhaps they were spawning. And fast forward 20 years, we find that in fact is the case.
She's also figured out why the box jellyfish sting is so powerful.
By doing this kind of systematic biochemical research, I was able to identify that the locomotive of this train, if you will, this complex cocktail that comprises the toxins and compounds that make up the venom, the fastest acting agent is this pore-forming protein called a porin. Basically, the way these proteins work is they self-assemble and drill into a particular cell or mini cells and cause massive rupture and lysis of the cell. We do these tests on blood agar, where we apply the tentacle to the blood agar.
In her lab the next day, she shows me what that looks like.
And you see the clear zone of hemolysis.
Yeah.
That's what happens to your skin.
Oh, wow.
So there's intact red blood cells in this agar. And when we lay the tentacle on it, it spontaneously stings the agar and destroys the red blood cells to leave that clear zone.
It's easy to see that the venoms killed the cells around the tentacle, giving it an outline about 3 or 4 times its size.
Basically, the cells in your body are lysed like the blood agar in this plate is lysed. They're broken, and the hemoglobin comes out. The cells are killed from the venom.
But Angel says venom from jellyfish in the Philippines and Thailand would clear the plate, showing how they can cause death in as little as 5 minutes.
So our local box jellyfish are nowhere the match of some of the Indo-Pacific species.
Through her research, Angel's developed a treatment for jellyfish stings that's used by the Department of Defense and is available commercially, online, and at some of the ABC stores in Waikiki.
Within 5 minutes, the pain goes from a 10 to a 2. So I desperately wish that I had that, but then I wouldn't have been pushed to develop it.
Angel says some of the common remedies you'd find in a Google search, like rinsing with seawater, scraping the tentacles away, or applying ice, actually make things worse. If you're faced with the consequences of ignoring good advice, Angel says rinsing with vinegar and applying heat will lessen the severity of your sting. And it might be your best option if you don't happen to have her Sting No More treatment on hand. Wavelengths is a production of Currently Ocean News, produced and hosted by me, Betsy Brown. A special thank you to Dr. Angel Yanagihara for letting me join her at the beach and in her lab in the middle of a very busy week. If you haven't done so yet, please rate Wavelengths on iTunes. It will help others find the podcast. If you have an idea for a future episode like this or another ocean issue to highlight, please email me at wavelengthsoceanpodcast.com. Our theme music is by Sean Kish.